Hey there, I'm Shafer Minnick. I'm a high-performance business and life coach for women, and I'm the creator of the Passion to Profit Accelerator. I left home when I was 16, a home that was filled with emotional and physical abuse for a full scholarship at the University of Maryland. When I left, I was the first person in my immediate family to ever leave the tiny county where I grew up, and I was terrified. I was desperate for a guide, a roadmap, a fairy godmother, like anyone, anything that would help me feel a little bit more at ease or make my transition to college a little less terrifying. See, even though I was really excited to be out of the circumstances that I grew up in, I was really worried still for my mom and my little brother. My ex-stepfather rained down abuse on us for years. And for years, I would beg my mom, please get us out of this situation. And she would say, honey, I would love to leave, but I don't make enough money to support us, so I feel trapped. You know, it was then, at the age of like 10 or 11, that I really understood that money equals freedom. So even though we lived in America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, if you didn't have enough money to change your circumstances, then you really weren't free. And so I made a vow then that I would never feel stuck. I would never feel like I didn't have options. I would never feel like I couldn't do the things that made me feel alive and made me feel like a good person. And I would do the same for my family, starting with my mom. So I got my first job when I was 12 years old, and I started hoarding money, thinking that I would be able to help my mom get out of her circumstances at that point. And I remember taking her this money that I'd saved from a paper route or being a line cook, and she said, honey, you need to save that money for college. So when it was time to leave, I was excited, but definitely trepidatious. When I got to college, I kept working. I worked 2 jobs the whole way through college, and one of those jobs I was able to work at a professional firm and got my first introduction to consulting. It was great. I was only 16 years old when I started, and I was the weird kid who would come to class in suits because I had to go to the office before and after class. But that job was a great launching pad for me. They gave me a chance, and I was able to coach and manage my first team of consultants by the time I was 17. I was able to buy a house by the time I was 18, and by 19 I graduated from the University of Maryland magna cum laude. From that point on, I dove headfirst into consulting. I really loved solving problems, the harder the better, and I really loved this feeling of helping people. I was able to work on projects for Fortune 100 companies and different departments within the US government and even some politicians. I rose really quickly through the ranks, and I was financially free for the first time in my life. And I was even able to make enough money to support my mom. You know, around this time I also started to really get into my own personal development, and I really started to understand that I was gay. And that was really a big watershed moment for me, because I had been really a person that was tied to my religion and tied to the community around that, and it made me really question things. So I started going on this spiritual journey, and I started really understanding more about how to be a better leader, how to be a better person, and how to find more fulfillment. You know, around this time, I also really started to deepen and strengthen my relationships with women. You know, my oldest friend is a woman named Karina from the 2nd grade. We still speak every day. My best friends are all women, and I've always just had this natural ability to connect with them in pretty much every setting. So even though on the outside I was this white male that had access to everything in America, earning these great salaries, flying up the corporate ladder, starting my own charity, making $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, more money than I ever thought I could make in my entire life, much less in a year, I still felt unfulfilled. I still felt like there was something there. And no matter how I walked into the room, I always felt like an underdog. I always felt like I wasn't doing enough, or I wasn't smart enough, or I didn't have enough experience. And through a lot of personal growth, I was able to really understand that so much of that stemmed from the way my ex-stepfather had treated us growing up. Hearing every day that you had shit for brains, or that I was a lard ass, or that I would never amount to anything, really forced me to feel like I was not good enough, and made me feel like I needed to work twice as hard and I deserved half as much. And ironically, this is something that also really resonated with all of the female friends that I had. And as I really started to understand that, I started to seek out more female relationships with women at work. I started working for female bosses. I really started going after female clients because I just was able to understand and to identify so much more with them than with men. So while I was going through all of this, I was building a consulting practice that generated $50 million a year in annual revenue. I was helping business leaders tackle these really tough problems. I would hear these constant refrains from my female clients and colleagues. They would say things to me like, "Shafer, I come in here an hour before him every day, and I go home and immediately log back on and keep working. I'm answering emails until 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and they still promoted him over me." Or, "Shafer, I was at happy hour last night, and John had one too many drinks and accidentally let it slide that he makes 20 grand a year more than I do. I started this firm 6 months before him, and we had the exact same background. We went to the same school. We do the same job function." Or I had a client come and say to me, "Shafer, I'm really excited to get this project started, but we have to do it faster than we signed on the contract. We have to do it cheaper than what we agreed to, and we have to give bigger and better results. I'm a woman. I have to deliver that much more." And I would watch as all of my friends started having children and building families as well, that not only were women under this ridiculous pressure in the corporate space, they also were the ones that had to pack the lunches, organize the school pickups and drop-offs. They were answering the emails while they were chaperoning the class field trip. And I just remembered what that must have felt like for my mom, dragging us into the office on a Saturday, her working overtime to try to get enough money to get us out of that toxic situation, while I was sitting with my typewriter doing my own work on the side. And so I made another vow. I vowed to help be a guide for those women, someone that could help to champion these women and allow them to hustle for themselves just as hard or even harder than they were hustling for this corporate giant that was never going to appreciate them, that was never going to recognize them. I really realized that it wasn't enough for me to be financially free or for my mom to be financially free, that there was an entire generation of women that still had the opportunity to step up and be in a better space than they were living. And I decided to make that my life's work. So I went about asking all of my female colleagues, what do you need to do to leave this place? Imagine you have a life where you can earn 7 figures and still help your kid with homework, or not ever have kids and go and travel the country in an RV and work from your laptop, or go and live abroad and take your family to a million different places. Whatever that is, you get to do that. But what do you need to do in order to take control of your own life? What do you need to do to leave this place? And feedback I got, women told me they needed help with all sorts of things. They needed help putting together a marketing plan and then help executing it. They needed help raising they needed help raising capital so they could grow and sustain their business. They needed help and frameworks on how to capture product feedback so they could iterate. They needed help understanding how to get into market research and get inside the minds of their customers. But most of all, what they needed was confidence, to know that they could stand in their shine, to know that they could say, this is my time and I deserve this. And so I took that feedback, I fused it together with the 20 years that I had spent consulting for these Fortune 100 companies and these government organizations. I coupled that with the fact that I have an MBA and graduated summa cum laude from the University of North Carolina, and also fused that with everything that I'd learned being an award-winning group fitness instructor here in DC. And I created the Passion to Profit Accelerator, which in the 8 months that it has been in existence has generated over $900,000 of revenue for women, and 7 women have generated over $100,000 2 women have been able to leave their full-time jobs, and I know the impact is only going to keep growing from here. So that's why I'm here, because it is my mission to be able to help women live the life that they deserve to live. I believe that if we allow women to keep earning pennies on the dollar compared to their male counterparts, that's us co-signing on the fact that women are less than. And I, for one, don't believe that. In every situation, with all things being equal, I have seen women work longer and harder and strive for more excellence than their male counterparts. And I, for one, am honored to help coach women into the fullness of that experience. So if you're hearing this, if you're a woman that's between the ages of 30 and 45 years old, and you're tired of being passed over for the promotion, you're tired of knowing that you don't make as much money as your male counterparts, you know that you have an idea inside of you, you know that you have a business that can give you freedom and can create generational wealth for your family, I would love to talk to you. I would love to hear your story. Please send me an email, shoot me a text. My number is below. Reach out to me on any of my social media platforms, because all you have to do is step up and say, I'm here and I'm ready, because I know that greatness lives inside of you, and I know you can make an impact right here, right now, today. And I would be so honored to be able to help be your guide on that journey. I can't wait to connect with you. I can't wait to see what you create.